where are we going and how can we stop and make sure that this does not continue? We'll be getting some professional insight tonight on the program. Stay with me. But first and foremost, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
The family.
Thank you so much, everyone. And there you have it. You've been served with your political roundup story. So let's begin tonight with our special focus on the International Women's Day. Any day, anytime, we celebrate our women who are doing us proud in every sector of the Nigerian life. And today, as we celebrate the women and looking at some of the wonders they are performing, the First Lady, Mrs. Rotimi Tinubu, has been speaking about the role and the place of the woman in the society, and she's particularly worried about what has become somewhat a targeted attack on the women and their children in their schools and in the society. The recent kidnap and attacks that we're seeing in some schools and in some parts of the northern Nigeria. Mrs. Tinubu is asking for the death penalty on the kidnappers. Take a listen to her.
Good morning, woman leader. Whoever is kidnapping young people is sick, cruel, and a coward. Yes. Enough is enough. And I call on the state governors that once we take hold of them, they deserve capital punishment. What they are doing is trying to kill our future. We all know parents, when we are old, we rely on our children, and we see them that our investment has not gone to waste, especially when they are successful. Why would you go and take them from schools? Why? I don't really know. But right now, I think enough is enough. As a former lawmaker, I believe that any one of them captured deserve capital punishment.
Those are the views of the First Lady, Ms. Rotimi Tinubu. But then, there are further questions that we need to ask. The role of the woman, how we can expand the space. Recently, this is a furtherance to the clamor for a permanent seat for lawmakers in the National Assembly. It's been a dismal performance for women in politics. And you can see from a graph that I will be showing you, for those who contested election, the women will throw their hat in the ring. And you see the dwindling number from 2015 to 2019 and up to 2023. And I will also show you the dwindling number of the representation of women in the National Assembly, presently in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. I'll be showing you some of the figures. But let's bring in someone who has had the experience of serving in the public sector, and of course who is an intellectual in every standard, a former member of the House of Representatives and a woman rights pusher, Honorable Nnenna Ukeje, joins us live in our studio. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And congratulations on International Women's Day.
Thank you very much.
What does this mean for you, though? I mean, as a former lawmaker, you fought your way in politics where a lot of people thought it's a man thing, it's a space for men. But you fought your way hard. You become a leader, national leader in your political party. On a day like this, what does the International Women's Day mean for you?
Well, thank you very much for your compliments. So too generous with the compliments. But today, I think that the fight or the advocacy for the International Women's Day has been a journey that has been long and ever shifting. I believe that over the years, women have made progress. I mean, we've come from not having a day such as this to having a day set aside by the United Nations for women, for the gender agenda. So I think that in itself is progress. But what do I think, honestly? I honestly think, Sheung, that we have stepped into this space and we celebrate. But in Nigeria, for instance, there are only 2 seasons where there's this frenzied advocacy for the gender agenda. And the 2 seasons are on the 8th of March, where days such as this, we have the marches, we have the conversations such as this, you know, there's the frenzied, almost feverish pitch of the talk about women in the public space. And then, of course, when the election seasons come round. But in between, you find that there is a lull in that conversation. And so I don't think that for something that is centuries long, that is generations entrenched, that just the almost lack of commitment, consistent commitment on the part of women is going to shift the sands under our feet. Today, of course, is a day where we're going to say all the nice things. Shane, you're going to regale us again with all the statistics, dire statistics, I dare say. We're going to quote copiously from women who have made the changes around the world and so on and so forth. But the question is, where is the same continuity? Where is the amount of drive that we require for this to happen? Because, as you said, the numbers are dwindling. And it's not only because, you know, women are not showing interest, because over the years, I'm sure your statistics will also prove that more women have shown an interest in coming into the public space. Unfortunately, the leaky pipeline is such that even though more women are showing an interest in running for public office, for instance, fewer women are winning these elections. So it's almost as if it's a mockery of all the efforts that have been put in. So a day such as this, I think, is amazing as a constant reminder that we're not going to go away, that we're going to continue to advocate for there to be more women in the space. There's a Chinese saying, Sheung, that women hold up half the sky. Now, the assumption behind that saying is that we can't just have the one sex holding up the sky, especially what we're going through in Nigeria today, the economic downturn and so on and so forth. We need all our brains, we need all our energy, we need all the intellect in this country to come. So when you have it skewed terribly against one half of your population, it's little wonder that we're not getting the results that we hope for.
In terms of population, the women and the male and the female gender compete favorably.
Yeah.
And in fact, in some parts of the country, we have more women than the men.
Yes.
And in some parts, those who are in fact encouraging that if a man does not take more than one wife, there are people who may not find a husband because of the numbers. I mean, there are jokes like that. But the question here on a day as this is, if we're having and I remember, I take you back to where I was in secondary school. In primary school, for example, I had 2 young ladies who will go for the first and second position, and some of us boys will take the 3rd and the 4th position, and they will say to us that, look at your mates who are girls who are coming 1st and 2nd. What are you doing with your brains? And we're competing. Within the first 5 positions, we're competing. In secondary school, there's some bright young women who are doing amazing. At Babala University, for example, they had, a 20-something first-class student in law. All of them are women. And so you find women doing amazing. But it comes to leadership. It comes to politics. It comes to governance. It comes to policy making. We cannot find women. Why is it happening? And it keeps happening. Why?
Well, Sharon, you've spoken about secondary school, but let's even go to the banking sector and the judiciary, for instance, where it's all about intellect, it's all about capacity, and it's all about resilience and drive. You find that the women in those spaces are doing so well. We have more CEOs. In fact, the latest CEO that's taken over from the unfortunate death of Herbert Wingwe is also a woman. So you have SunTrust, you have Fidelity, and the judiciary is awash with women who have done amazingly. The Court of Appeal have had back-to-back presidents of the Court of Appeal being women. And I think that speaks to where it's just about intellect and capacity. Now, when it comes to politics, there's a lot, of course, there's brawn, there's entrenched preconceived notions, there's the gatekeepers, it's the old boys club, there's the violence, and so on and so forth. And so it's a totally different terrain, where it's not necessarily about the capacity of the woman to to be turned up in that space as much as the other things that mitigate against women coming up. Now, there's a consensus about the fact that women in the public space make governance easier in conflict resolution, for instance. The United Nations and a lot of people are in agreement that where women at the table, that the conversations are wider about conflict resolution. The conversations take on a wider spectrum. It is more entrenched and it is more long-lasting. But unfortunately, in politics, it is so difficult because, as I said again, between the appointive and the elective positions, the terrain is totally different. So it's not necessarily about the capacity of the women. And of course, there's anybody, and they say it's a game of power. And nobody wants to give up power so easily. So over the years, we found that there's an escalation of violence, even in the space or in the drive into politics. The shenanigans have gotten more interesting. And women are really not cut out, really, honestly, by our physiognomy and by our makeup, are not cut out for the level of shenanigans that have taken over the public space. And so Nigeria suffers for it in terms of policy direction, because it is evident. I mean, everybody says it.
So our politics is discriminatory?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if I said it today, would it be the first time that you've heard it? Evidently. And, and not only is it discriminatory in terms of preconceived notions, but it's also discriminatory.
Do you feel threatened in some way? Do you feel, when you were in the house, for example, and I mean, I know how eloquently you spoke. When you stand up, a lot of people itch to hear what you want to, not only credit to your British accent on the floor, but also because you are a very beautiful woman who speaks very well. And the fact that people thought that you have good ideas. But did you at some point felt a bit threatened by the men folk and what looks like a space for men?
But should I say something? I always used to say to people that I loved the job of being a legislator, but I wasn't very sure about the job of being a politician. Okay? And the reason for that was that when you made it to the floor of the House, I believe that I didn't really have to deal with that because I became one of the boys. All right? And I always said to people that the House of Representatives, and I think most public spaces as well, become a platform where ideas are exchanged. And so if you had ideas and you earned the respect of your male counterparts, then the threat was not as much as you got there. However, the process to getting there is the one that is fraught with the misogyny. I mean, at its very worst, it's abuse. At its absolute best, it's misogyny. Basically.
I mean, you said that women, in your last election, you came out to say women are the reason why women have not been voted for. And there must be a reason why you feel that women didn't even vote for women.
No, but women, I think that women will always do what it is, especially in the rural areas. That there are certain people who are the gatekeepers. And the gatekeepers, for the longest time, a lot of the vision of leadership for most of the women in the rural areas is not a woman, okay? So when a woman comes into that public space, you're an aberration to what the people know. And so you must do it over and over and over again for there to be a mindset change, all right? Like I said as when I started the conversation, that it's important that we continue putting women out there, that the vision as well of leadership does not necessarily have to come out in a pair of trousers. But then let me also say that for the longest time, we have also, I think that, I don't know who had that very famous quote, that you can't do the same thing the same way and expect a different result. I think that we went through the phase where we thought that we're feminists, and we moved away from what it is that our forebears and our mothers did, the women who actually started to make the holes in the glass ceiling. Now, those women believed in collaboration. And they did it. And in the words of Ban Ki-moon, for instance, he says that, the gender agenda is for every girl, every boy, every man, and every woman. But I think that for the longest time, we got to the place where we started to push the narrative that it was us against the men, as against the narrative that the men were our partners in this. I'll credit the last House of Representatives, because for the first time, they actually had 159 votes for seats, permanent
seat for women.
For women. That had never happened in the House of Representatives.
But they shut it down in the end.
Yes, but they shut it down in the end. But at least
no concurrence at the end of the day.
No, there was no concurrence. But the House of Representatives at least pushed for it. And I believe that for as long as we continue to celebrate the baby steps that are taken and build from those baby steps and stand on those baby steps and reach out, then, we'll start to make the progress that we require. Yeah. We can't say from 158, we're going to lean back on rest on our oars and say, oh, but there was no concurrence. No, I choose not to look at it like that. I choose to see that there was at least 158 people who voted. And so for that advocacy, the amount of advocacy that went into getting the 158 votes, we should celebrate it, but we should not go back and wait till International Women's Day to start the conversation again and then hope that we're going to. It should be continuous, it must be deliberate, it must be incremental, and it must be consistent.
I mean, kudos to, and when we talk about National Assembly politics, we remember the role and how the likes of Patricia Ete pushed through being a leader in the House of Representatives, Mulika Zakondea being a leader in the national. It's not an easy job. The Senate has not had it. We've not had even a deputy Senate president in the Senate, but the House had gone a little step further to say we want a deputy House Speaker in the House. But let me show you what has happened. In parliamentary politics, these are the figures, and you anticipated it. You said I was going to show you, but you predicted right. So this is what it's looked like. Female representation in Nigerian politics showing from 2015 to 2019 and then 2023, how women ran for office. And you see that it became lower in the last election. And interestingly, or sadly so, that we have more women throwing their hats in the ring. But how many of them were able to make it? There are lower women who ran, but now we had lower women in terms of numbers who are represented in the National Assembly. And let me show you the figures. Very, very low. Abysmal, if you may call it. So this is what it looks like from 2019 compared to 2023. It has declined. We have lower numbers in the Senate. We have, in fact, more numbers in the House of Representatives. Perhaps in terms of percentage, there must be that disparity. But again, how do we push for the narrative? If you look at the figure, 17% for the Senate. In 2015, we ran for office 15%. In the House of Reps in 2019, 12.3%. We ran for office 11.6% in 2019. In 2023, 9% and 9% in both houses. This is what it looked like for those who ran for office. But the figures are far lower for when the actual numbers of those who made it to the houses, the two houses.
Yeah, I mean, Chinwe had said it earlier on, that, it's almost as if it's a mockery of the amount of work that has been put into it. Because before the election cycle, you see that there's so much advocacy and there's so many promises. And, of course, the political parties do the tokenism that they do. They're not going to take any money for it, so the forms are free. And then, there's the United Nations Women. And, there's just such frenzied conversations around the country about encouraging women and, the consensus as to why women must be in the public space. And everybody's in agreement with that. But the leaky pipeline, it gets worse. There is so much aggression. And what can be done? Of course, there's advocacy in the National Assembly. We're going to have to go through votes. I've just been here celebrating the votes we've gotten. Unfortunately, too much, too little, okay? So I'm celebrating flash of excellence that had a zero bearing on what it is that we actually wanted to achieve.
So if you look at it, Honorable, in 2019, we had 12.3% in the Senate representation. The actual numbers in the House of Reps was 11.9%. If you look at the actual numbers, there are more seats for women, but the percentage, because there are 360 seats in the House of Reps. But in 2023, these are the actual numbers. 8 out of 109, 101 are men. And House of Reps, 3.6%, which is far lower compared to 2019. And if you look at 2019 compared to 2015, 2011, these figures are in fact lower when you were in the House. 13 out of 360 are women. And that is drowning, isn't it?
It is.
How can a woman speak up in that kind of space where it is so hollow that the only thing you hear are the baritone and the voices of men?
Well, I mean, it's a testosterone nightmare, but you know, and we go through it. But I tell you something. I don't think that women can do it alone. I think it's imperative that we drive and push the common sense argument that we need women in the public space. That, you know, that governance, for instance, I just listened to the First Lady, you just played the tape, and, you know, she speaks about the fact that women will always bear the brunt, from climate change to COVID to sex as a weapon of modern day warfare to kidnapping. Women will always bear the brunt of war times, of everything that's negative, of hunger and so on and so forth. And we need more female voices to come up with the suggestions that will throw up the cure to most of these problems. I think that aside from the fact that in conflict resolution, the woman's voice is absolutely silent. In security, the voice of the woman is very silent, except, of course, where she's the victim and so on and so forth. I think it's imperative that of course, the media has a role to play. Unfortunately, people talk about the seats, permanent seats for women, and it gets drowned.
Do you see that happening, though?
Unfortunately not, because we simply don't have the numbers. It's a chicken and egg situation.
If you have a Senator, Rotimi Tinubu, as the First Lady, who is being in the National Assembly, with the kind of energy and the kind of resilience that she has, you know her when she was in the National Assembly, you think she will not help to push for it?
I mean, as far as advocacy is concerned, I'm sure she will do her utmost. I mean, and because she understands the corridors of the National Assembly, I'm sure she will know how to navigate. Unfortunately, she's not going to be on the floor when the votes are cast. And we saw that happen the last time, where the First Lady was in the... And, of course, there was this uproar about her trying to arm twist the National Assembly and, you know, all that talk about three arms of government separate but working together. I have absolutely no doubt that her advocacy is going to be stronger. I have absolutely no doubt that because she understands the workings of the National Assembly, the backrooms in the National Assembly, of course, which people like you, Shehu, don't understand, I'm sure she would make a lot more progress than other First Ladies. But however, the entrenched misogyny may also fight her, you know, and when it comes to that, and, you know, people will say yes.
But don't worry, there are some of us who are he for she. We will be helping also to push here on, and we have been doing that all along. Those of us who are passionate about.
But then again, you're guilty of what it is that I spoke about. You're also guilty of the fact that there's this ebb and total flow. There's this flow and ebb, because after today, Shehu, you're going to be more engrossed in other things. But
you know what it took me to get you out of your house tonight?
Well, sure,
it's part of it, though.
It was short notice.
But I'm happy you made it, and it's always a pleasure having you talk about this. But you look at the focus on inclusion, the focus of International Women's Day, empowering women, the issue of progress and all what have you. If there's something that this government under Bola Tinubu will do to ensure, because the First Lady was also speaking about welfare for women, that's absolutely important. What do you think are the right steps to take?
You know, we speak about welfare for women, but then I think that women would require just certain things. Security is one of them. You know, because subsistence farming is really carried out by women. You know, I think that if there was security and women could farm, a lot of women don't want handouts. I don't know, but I don't think that a lot of women want handouts. I think women want the government to create a secure environment for us to be able to go to the farms. I think that education, you know, is also imperative, because with a lack of education, you can dream but so far. I think, you know, those are the things that women want. I also think that more appointive positions, because that is within the purview of government. I mean, there's the gender statement. I don't remember what that document is called, but it is there, you know. And I think the government can adhere to it, that when it comes to appointive positions, that government should take responsibility and take advantage of the appointive positions, leave the elective positions to the people, and then, you know, probably come up, help people understand. But as far as appointive positions are concerned, I think the government should take advantage of that and push more deserving women forward. In the words of Madeleine Albright, I'll quote her, and it's one of my favorite quotes. She says, and she says it all over again, that the world can take enough mediocre men, but not mediocre women. So I think that, you know, the government, I think, should push deserving women, because what happens is that when deserving women are not pushed, eventually, and I know that our forebears saw that, because they realized that when women did so well in the public space, it wasn't those women that took it, or if they didn't do so well, the people did not say, oh, look, Yvonne hasn't done well, or Ifeoma hasn't done well, or Kemi hasn't done well. They say women have not done well. And so I think that when they push women who are deserving, then those women are also a reference point, and then it opens up the space. Yeah. Because in recent past, I mean, everybody who has said, oh, don't give women the opportunity for, you know, a few sad events, but don't give women the opportunity because women are this and that and the other. But I think that, you know, the government can do that, you know, push women who give the impression that women are able to do the work, and women, you know, can actually do the work. Yeah.
Honorable Nana Okeji, always a pleasure having you.
Always a pleasure being here.
You said the women bear the brunt of war, but I'm seeing some comments online saying the women bear the brunt of breakfast and heartbreaks too.
Oh, but absolutely, I totally agree. We bear the brunt, period.
Thank you so much. I salute you and all of the women in our lives, and the courage of those women who are working hard to ensure that our lives are better, especially at Channels Television. We celebrate our vice chairman, Mrs. Shola Momo, on the International Women's Day. And all of the women are working and with us, our colleagues. Thank you so much, everyone. We take a break, everyone. But when we return, our attention will be on Kaduna and the abduction in that school. 287 pupils abducted in that school. We'll be getting a sense of what we can do to bring them back home and safely, too. We'll be right back, everyone. With us now, we'll take you to a scenario playing out in Kaduna State, which is troubling and concerning, though, about the abduction of a student from the government school in Kugirawa in Shikun local government area of Kaduna State. And that we've seen the governor of the state, Senator Ubasani, visited and toured the area where the attackers happened. One of the teachers that told us that about 280 students or more are being abducted from that school. And let me allow you to listen to Governor Ubasani.
What I can say here is that by the grace of God, under my able leadership, we will try as much as possible to ensure that every child returns. By the grace of God, inshallah. We are doing our best. I'm going to work with the community leaders. I want to work with the traditional leaders here, as well as the youth, to ensure that every child returns back home by the grace of God. I discussed with the National Security Advisor. He has assured me they are also working, and I've also spoke with the GOC Women Mechanized Division. He has also assured me they are also trying. Here we are with the Commissioner of Police and the Director of SSS, and all of them are working closely with Kaduna government under my leadership. No child will be left behind.
Sad scenario playing out. Well, this is a community, if you understand how the topography and the geography of that area is an area particularly troublesome for bandit attack for some years now. And it brings to bear the situation in Kankara, in Katsina State, and Emure Ekiti in Ekiti State in southwest Nigeria, where we've seen abductions and attacks. What exactly can we do at this point? The governor's promised that these students will be brought back home safely. But how can this happen? How can we ensure that these students are brought back? Some of the stories we're hearing are that some of the students who try to escape the attacks by these bandits, some of them were left injured. Let's get some expert opinion on this one. I'm being joined by a security expert, Dr. Kabir Adamu, joins us live here in our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Dr. Adamu, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Sad scenario playing out there. 280-something students. We trying to get authorities to confirm those figures, but teachers are saying they're counting the numbers, and that is what they can make sense of. But make sense for it in all of these for us. And what do you make an initial summary and assessment of the situation there? What can you tell us?
Thank you, Sheun. Indeed, sad situation. What we learned was that pupils gathered on Thursday morning to do the usual assembly that...
It's just yesterday.
Yesterday, the usual assembly that they do around 7:30 thereabout. And just around the same period, bandits surrounded the school and then literally herded these pupils from two schools, the secondary school and then the primary school, literally herded them into the forested part of that town, Kuriga. And their parents were literally watching when it happened. Some of the teachers who were together with them were also herded together with them. And that's it. Now, the interesting thing is that forested part is close to Birningwari. And of course, because it's close to Birningwari, it gives access all the way to Katsina and then probably to Zamfara. The feelers that we're getting at the moment, it's very possible that the perpetrators may have come from this location.
Well, if we know of the history of Beningwari and its environs and the nearness of the forest, and we do know that the perpetrators, the bandits, they've used that forest so many years now to perpetrate their evils and cut away our students as though they're going for a festival. What do you think could have gone wrong? I mean, if they went through that, and how easy can we get them back? Because the assurances are, we will get them back home. But they say in the security parlance that the very first few hours are very crucial.
In simple terms, it's a failure of intelligence. The fact that this number of bandits could move from wherever it is that they moved, come to that location and carry out the attack that they carried out and escape with their victims. The simple failure of intelligence. Apart from the failure of intelligence, so in security, you run about 6 different components. If you fail to prevent it, there are 3 components that would allow you to prevent it. Now, that failed. Now, the other 3 components, the 3 R's of security that would have come into play after the incident, we haven't seen that. And I say this with all sense of responsibility. You are in the media. Who has been queried? Who has been maybe even told to step aside after that incident? We're talking of 287 pupils.
And Professor Usman Yusuf was here the other day and talked about 50 people
that are still in the hands
and nothing is being said about
them. So we've accepted failure in security. And if we're going to change this, we shouldn't accept failure. In 2019, we gathered the world and launched a safe school policy for the protection of our schools. We told the world that this is a document, and that document is out there with a guideline for the implementation of the various components of that document. This is 2019. Well, how many years down the road? Before then, there was the Safe School Declaration, there's the Safe School Initiative, and then almost on a weekly basis, I document this in my company. You see one or the other ministry, department, or agency launching a school security outfit, as if we do not have this global framework for the protection of our schools. So back to the question you asked, if we have a school in that environment that is close to Birningwari, I really don't understand why that school did not have requisite protection that would have prevented those bandits from taking them away. From what we know, even the town itself does not have security deployment. I heard the traditional ruler of the town literally crying after the incident. The police post that was meant to be there has been shut down. So you had this number of pupils gathered in one place with literally no protection.
Every indices that could birth this kind of sad scenario were in existence. And there's no way you can blame that incident because those things were absent. And a big question here, which should actually prick the minds of every sensible citizen and anyone in leadership today in this country, is how far we have come to failing in terms of building a local network of governance, which we have deterred in the first place. And I mean, in the US, and touring one of the tourist sites that I visited, and they told me this is one of the fortress in the United States, in the heart of Washington, D.C. And I'm being told that, yes, we anticipate there may be an attack on this particular facility, on this ground. But what happens is that nothing less than 500 boots. We get here in less than 5 minutes. And these people that you see right here are those who can fend off any attack, but they will hold it off for about 7 minutes until reinforcement comes. And you cannot get enough enforcement on the ground, but you can get reinforcement with using intelligence and rapid response when you see this kind of thing. So people will ask the question, this kind of attack goes on for hours and hours and no single reinforcement or effort being made immediately.
I mentioned earlier on that security is a conduit. You have basically 6 elements. The first 3 elements to deny, deter, deny, delay. And then, of course, once you're able to do that, the incident will not occur. But where these 3 fails, then you now bring in the next 3 elements, which is the element to response, like you spoke about, the element to review, and then the element to recover. Now, what we've seen consistently is the failure to apply this very basic principle in security. We tend to deploy directly that concentric cycle that would allow these 6 elements that I've mentioned, unfortunately, has not been happening. Now, the other thing that we've also seen recently is the very haphazard manner which governors are creating vigilantes. Here, when it's adding to this challenge, there is no framework at the moment that is guiding the governors in the creation of that these vigilantes. We also are aware that perhaps because of the manner of recruitment, certain elements within the society are very unhappy. So as an example, the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion are not followed. So you create a vigilante, and then you just recruit one ethnic group. And then because that ethnic group perceives another ethnic group as being the criminals among them, now you recreate the problem. It happened in Zamfara, it's happening in Kaduna, it's also possibly happening in Kaduna State. So I think there is a need for the federal government to step in, create a framework that would guide the governors. If we're going to accept this, for instance, if we don't go the state police method and we're going to allow these vigilantes to remain, the framework needs to guide them.
Can you blame them? Because we're understanding that there are blame games, of course, that some of these vigilantes from Katsina and Zamfara, and experts within the sector are also querying the vigilantes and what has led into some of these perspectives that may not be popular out there. But if you can give a sense of how does this vigilante be responsible or can be fingered in all of this that is happening?
So the vigilantes were created to address a challenge. There is a gap. But then when in creating them, you do not provide the right framework for them to exist. In the case of Zamfara, the example I gave you, if we go back to when Governor Yari used to be governor, the monster that we have today actually started from there. The Fulanis who felt the vigilantes that were created were targeting them, and they did target them. Their women would go to the market, these vigilantes would stop them, rape them in certain instances, and then, of course, it's documented. Some of these vigilantes who have not been properly trained, the most recent one that happened in Zamfara is an Islamic cleric. They went to the town, invited him for questioning, and the next thing he was decapitated. That problem has not been solved till now. It just happened a few days ago. So there are instances.
So there are possibilities that they've gone rogue.
They have gone
and
rogue.
They have weapons at their disposal.
At their disposal. And then there is no mechanism for checking their activities.
So there is a menace that the state policing concept could cause.
Of course.
If it's not properly managed.
Of course.
This could be one of them.
This could be one of them. There is even the Southeast, when they created Ebubuegu, what happened in Imo State and I think possibly Anambra State, there was a lot of rancor from residents regarding the abuse and heavy-handedness by some of these agents. So while I agree that there are gaps in the current security architecture and there is a need for increased deployment at the state level, we have to be very careful in the manner that we approach this. And we have to come back to the federal government. Under our current laws and the security architecture that we have, the Office of the National Security Advisor and perhaps the Inspector General of Police should have taken up that responsibility. If the state governments are creating these vigilantes, they perhaps a framework that would allow for the documentation. And then what are the checklists, the standards for the recruitment of the various persons that would serve in that capacity? Who is going to train them? What in terms of their understanding of law enforcement, are they just going to arrest, or are they even going to, like what we saw in Zamfara, also met out judgment? You can't have that.
I mean, I'm bothered today about how we can get these pupils, whom I know, the brothers, the sisters, the family members, their parents will not be at peace at the moment. In fact, that school will be so desolate, and things will not be all right in that community. How they will be back home safely. And we do know that we do not have enough boots on the ground. And in fact, I had a guest on the program who said he does think that the job of FRSC is outdated. NSCDC, FRSC, and some paramilitary organization should be co-opted, retrained, and merged as police force that we do not need to replicate. The FRSC has its role also duplicated in the Nigerian police force. The NSCDC protecting, they're doing pretty much the work of police. How then can't we just put them together and increase the boots on the ground? But the question is, how do we get these children? Do we have the technical know-how, the technology necessary to be able to find them in the bushes, in the forest?
Sheun, beyond what the president released, which is commendable, he released a statement and he has directed the security agencies to bring these boys back. I'm hoping that behind the scene, the administrative machinery that runs the presidency, they would have raised specific tasking orders to the various security organizations. Those tasking orders have to be specific. For instance, I mean, the various agencies that have responsibility for internal security, give them specific timelines. They failed in allowing the incident to occur. Now, if we've gone to the extent where we're accepting failure, then let's not accept the consequence of that failure. Give them timelines, 10 days, 2 weeks, produce these kits. If the leadership of those organizations don't produce them, we show them the way. It's as simple as that.
President Tinubu has said to the governors, arm your forest rangers. Go inside the bushes. So take away the blame from the center. Yes, the center has the power, has all of the authorities to administer the policing and the security architecture. But what are the governors also doing? This forest that these criminals and these bandits are staying, are the forest rangers? Have they been deployed? The governors are said to have taken more monies in the FARC allocation, more than they've taken in the last few months. What have they done with it? This is a critical question. The lives of students and innocent pupils are involved here, Mr. Akeredolu.
I mean, I can't say it better than you've said it. In particular, the governors in the Northwest. Almost all the governors in the other regions are discussing security. And to an extent, they've created some regional framework for addressing security. But in spite of the fact, if I show you our February report, you'll be shocked at what is happening in the Northwest.
It's bad.
For every indices, Northwest is occupying the highest point. But they're not doing any regional
have more governors in the Northwest.
7 governors. And yet, they are not really talking together and approaching this issue in the manner that it should be approached. So yes, I agree that the searchlight that we currently have at the federal government should also go to the state government.
Because we thought that as soon as the Bola Tinubu government got into office, insecurity just, I mean, instances and criminal activities went to its lowest ebb that we've seen in months. I mean, we just started seeing all of this happening again.
The numbers suggest a plateau, unfortunately. And for us to move forward, we have to, that plateau needs to start coming down. And the only way that plateau can come down is to see enhanced coordination, collaboration, and cooperation between the federal and state government. We've spoken about the responsibility of the state government, but we now need to talk about accountability. We need to make sure that especially the leadership of the security organizations, I mean, the mandate of all the security organizations is very clear. But where there is a failure, a monumental failure like what we saw, then someone needs to be held accountable.
And not only being held accountable, some people do not need to sleep until these children are back. We need to hold the people accountable to ensure that these pupils who did not offend anybody, they're just in their school, they did not offend anybody by going to school. They are in the kidnappers.
There are 8-year-olds among
them.
Between the age of 8 and 12.
These guys have no soul at all, these criminals.
And I think we need to show to them as a country that
enough
is enough.
Enough is enough. Dr. Kabir Adamu, thank you so much indeed for your time and the insight that you have given to us. But that's our show for tonight. I feel so sad going to bed sometimes when I discuss all of these things because I do hear a lot of things. I have a lot of information, but the little that we are able to bring to bear for you as a citizen of this country, we need to pray for our country and it will get better. I believe so much. I have the love of this country at heart. But that's our show tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'll see you on Sunday, 8 p.m. I'm sure Akimale. God bless Nigeria.